on Sports! All righty. It's only way to say it is it's friggin' hot. Okay.
High cornstarch index is how I will put it.
Oh my God. I'll tell you what, I go driving home though, from work. It was a torrential downpour, which apparently we haven't seen in Monroeville yet. But it was one of those drive off the road kind of things. And you see, as they're spending all this money to redo all the roads between exit 57 and 67, they've made it where now the water is like staying still on the road. So, it's piling up there. Probably not the safest thing in the world. But all your money, all your Pennsylvania taxes are going for that now. But it went down from 91 to 73.
Wow.
So it was quite a nice drop here. We're here tonight with our episode of Bitter Men on Sports. Gary will soon join us. He's having some issues getting in there. And we're gonna start off. First thing we're gonna talk about today, NASCAR, which on a scale of would I rather time the quickness of my flushes or watch NASCAR? I'm going to be setting. I'm going to set records with my flushing. See, how quick my toilet is versus my neighbor's. It's a good way to get to know your neighbors, and I see how quick your toilet flushes. But today they proudly announce, approximately, what are we going to say here? 120, about 152 years.
Yeah,
155 years actually. Wow. 155 years after 155 years after the Civil War, they have now decided that maybe the Confederate flag isn't all what they had it meant to be. So NASCAR, once they were challenged, has said there is no Confederate flag at our events anymore. Which to me, Fletch, you got two things here. You can say what you want. The Confederate flag represented racism. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Nope.
But what it also represented was, here's an entity that came and attacked our nation. If you want to go down those terms, if you want to say the racist thing is stupid, which it isn't, but if you want to go there, this is who attacked our nation. This is who tried to split our nation. To me, it's no different than throwing out a Nazi sign in your yard from that entity. So people are celebrating this. I think it just shows what was in NASCAR's heart all these years. And I don't applaud them on this. I think you were assholes, and this shows just how much of an asshole you were. They intended, in my mind, they intended on doing nothing until they were called out the other day.
Right. If you don't, one of your black drivers call you on it, there's no change.
Yeah.
You don't care. And I guess I would have to say, for a sport that's built on left turns, this was a right turn for them to take. And it just took, as you said, 55 years, which just blows my mind. Or 65 years, I guess.
65 years. Jesus.
Maybe now we will see in sports start to lead the way once again in addressing things around racism, inclusion, and things like that. Remember, it was baseball that led the way with Jackie Robinson. You've done your book working with Chuck Cooper on his trailblazing as well. I know Gary would probably disagree with some of this, but I don't mind athletes using their celebrity for these causes. I mean, I guess it was Theodore Roosevelt who having this a bully pulpit, and that's really what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we've had some athletes over the years speak up, and always it comes at great personal cost. I mean, you look at what happened with Muhammad Ali; he lost part of his prime on that.
Yeah.
Curt Flood, basically, you know, his career for all intents and purposes was over. Colin Kaepernick, you know, same thing. And you know, you know, one other thing we may talk about this week is, you know, was the NFL coming out with their video statement and Roger Goodell recognizing that maybe the league should have supported it. Well, you know what? That's all well and good, but until Kaepernick has some sort of a job with the league, it's a really empty gesture, I think.
Well, it is at this point. I mean, you remember in the 42 movie, I'm not sure if this is historically accurate or not, but it was a good lesson. When Ben Chapman is told to apologize, Jackie Robinson really doesn't want to do it, but he's told by Branch Rickey, even the appearance that this guy has changed his mind is important to the cause.
Right.
And while a lot of this may be disingenuous, the appearance that Roger Goodell is saying this means a lot to what they're speaking about. The one thing I hope, last time, as you recall, they actually were with the players on the kneeling. Jerry Jones actually knelt with his players,
Right.
and they buckled down to the president. And you know what? He's whining again. Have some balls. Stick up for what you believe in. This has nothing to do with the flag. You know, the fat fucks in the stands who are shoving their face, taking pictures, slopping down beer, screaming "Go Steelers" before it's over. That's disrespecting the flag. That is disrespecting the flag, plain and simple. And we talked about this here. I think we both agreed on this. We both agreed that Kaepernick had the right to do what he wanted to do. My only opposition to it was a hollow gesture because he didn't follow up. And
yeah. I mean, there was some execution issues with that, definitely. But you know, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go one other step forward. Why do we even have the national anthem at sporting events? We don't need that.
It's fake Americanism.
Get rid of it.
There's no reason to play it or play it. You know, play it well before players are on the field if you want to do that. I mean, you know, I do. I'll tell you, I get pissed. People not pulling off their hats. People,
right?
You know, with what I talked about, that pisses me off because that is really not respecting. When you're down there, I mean, you know, he was taking time to reflect, and he was making a statement, and that's what America is built on, whether you agree with it or not. Right. That's what those guys fought for. He's not respecting the guys that died here. He's actually doing what they died for. They died to make this place free. What you see today a lot of times, and the bad thing about social networking, the bad thing about Facebook, is it's almost as if people, if you don't agree with what they agree with, you don't have the right to an opinion. Yeah. And, you know, I know there's people that don't agree with me. I know I don't always have the most popular opinions, but, you know, I don't not like somebody because they're disagreeing with me. It's a conversation. You know, you have your opinion, I have mine, and, you know, I respect you for the most part as a person, but
reasonable people can disagree.
Exactly. But and the problem and why, you know, this is going to have some effect because it feels different already.
What should?
It feels like, and I've been taking the opinions, and I've been listening. I've asked questions because last time I probably was thinking the same thing. It's a shame, but you know, I don't quite grasp it. And now I think I have more of a grasp. The research on Chuck Cooper, like, opened my eyes up. what people ignored about what this man did.
Yeah.
And, um, and you ask questions and you listen. And I mean, no, the high percentage of cops are good guys. But you know what? There's enough of a problem that you need to switch things. You need to get out of um, to me, the union, this guy had 18 things against him. I'm sure the union was responsible for saving his ass. And you hear about that at some of these things, and that's not what they're meant for. You've got to weed out the bad ones. You've got to weed out the bad ones. You've got to let the other ones have the opportunity to stop something from happening, like it sounded like was trying to be attempted. But he didn't want to go against the superior. You got to make those reforms. That's what you got to do. I don't think it's as tough as what they're saying. You got to have balls. You got to have balls with the union. You got to have balls with the guys that fight it. You don't want to be part of this, don't work here.
Right.
But
yeah, and it's interesting that the sports world has really reacted to this.
Yeah.
And we saw a little thing in New Orleans this week too, with Drew Brees made a statement that really ruffled a lot of people when he talked about he will never see how he could accept anyone kneeling, and his teammates called him out on it.
And they should have.
And they had a conversation, and he apologized, and they moved on. That's how it should work.
Exactly.
Exactly what you were talking about before, Dave. You talk, you listen, and you evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it needs to happen. And I mean, the conversation on did he really mean he was, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If he gets in there and he starts helping with change, and even if he's doing it for the wrong reasons, which from all accounts, I really think Drew Brees probably didn't think about it before he said it.
Oh,
Seems like a good guy, but he wasn't listening.
right. And that
He had his head up his ass.
Yeah, I mean, and we all do that. We all have our biases. I mean,
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories was in 1968. I was living in Freedom at the time. One of my best friends at the time was a young African-American kid. I went over to his house to play. And his father comes to the door and says, "You need to go home." And I just sort of looked at him and I said, "Is there something wrong?" He goes, "You need to go home now. This is not a good time. You need to go home." So I went home and I was really upset about it. I talked to my mom about it, and it was the day that Martin Luther King died. And so that was my first real, introduction into issues of race. And I remember my mom talking to me about it, saying that when she was a teenager, the family went for a vacation in Florida. And it was the first time that she'd ever seen segregated water fountains. She never, Freedom was a pretty diverse place, and that's where she grew up. And it was, she said that had a lasting effect on her, saying that. But here's the thing, Dave. I'm 58 years old. I didn't think we'd still be talking about this shit. I thought we would have solved this by now.
And that's the thing. We don't solve things because the main problem, and I mean, I think we're going to make big headroads into this because of just the talk is different, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
But come on, it's been 155 years and beyond that. I mean, this wasn't just a Civil War problem. This was a problem before the Civil War. I mean, you're talking 250 years of this happening, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off about the whole thing. And where you hope and you see positive things, on the other end, you get the stupidity. It's one thing to disagree with certain things. It's another thing to make up facts, and it's another thing to incite your base. And this is where I'm having the problem of thinking this is ever going to end, because everybody, and I know this isn't sports, and Lord knows, maybe, it'll be thought that I should stick to my own comments. But here's the thing: you jump on one side of probably 10% of the country is heavily conservative, 10% of the country is heavily liberal. Why the fuck do people, the other 80%, feel the need to jump on one side or the other?
Right.
I mean, you need to solve problems with common sense, okay? Not political ideology. Common sense.
Civility. We can't reach across the aisle. We can't, talk about things in a way that we reach some sort of common ground.
No.
And again, maybe I'm being somewhat naive too, but I think that sports has a role in all of this. You have some people who have that pulpit, who are speaking out, and maybe some things change. But the other part of it is, Dave, is I don't know what my sports watching is going to be like after this. It's I don't know how we're going to get. Baseball is just a fucking shit show at this point. They can't agree on anything. The season is rapidly going to blow up. Just some of the challenges that they're going to have during this pandemic around football. First of all, crowds. That's not going to happen. I don't see any way of that happening. Isolating players. I heard an interview with Bruce Arians today, which I thought was really interesting, where he talked about he's actually considering isolating his third string quarterback and not ever having him be around the team because, again, if your quarterback tests positive, they're automatically quarantined for 2 weeks. So it's going to be, I don't know how they're going to do all of this. You're going to have to disinfect, you're going to have to test, you're going to have to do all these things that it's going to be a complete, I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Well, here's the thing. You're doing it in Germany, and it's working. And they don't have people in the stadiums, but they're playing in their own stadium. So now again, Germany is a lot easier to travel than the United States. So it can be done.
How do you huddle in football?
I'm sorry?
How do you huddle in football? How do you,
you're either going to have to do it or you're not going to do it.
I just think that it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Of all sports, I think that's the one that's going to be the most difficult.
It will be, but that's the one that's going to end up being played more like normal, because these guys, right or wrong, they've taken the approach the whole time that we're gonna approach this as, until you tell us to change it, we're gonna approach it as normal. Maybe that's the right way, I don't know, but it's, as long as this thing is alive, football's always going to be compromised. So
yeah,
if they're going to play it, you have two ways to get around this. Now, originally, the idea of the mask and the quarantine was you didn't have enough respirators to go in the hospital. So I'm not sure at this point. See, that's the part that confuses me about this mask stuff at the end, because that wasn't the original process of this.
Yeah.
Which, if you're talking about respirators, I mean, and I'm not making a comment either or. I personally think that, what was done here, especially in the state, was the right thing to do because it saved a lot of lives. So my dumbass thinking was probably not the way to go with it. But that being said, I mean, you're either going to have to go forward and just whatever happens, happens. I personally wouldn't, I don't like the 50-75% NFL stadium thing.
No.
I think that's probably going to take a little while before we get back in this. I would approach it at least through the end of the year the way the European football teams are approaching it with empty stadiums. They're making it work with the other stuff, and they're making it work where, they don't have to put them in a bubble. And England, if you look at per capita, probably England, at least, I don't know about Germany, but England certainly seemed like they had it worse than us.
Per capita, yeah.
Yeah. So they're making it work. They're all making it work over I mean, football probably be the worst, but it's not much different than any of these other sports because it's all, you're all in each other's face. And I'll tell you what, I give kudos to the Bundesliga in Germany for what they've done. They've minimized, they've done the right thing. If I was a sport, I would certainly kind of model myself after what they're doing. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they didn't have football this year. I'd miss it.
Right.
But I believe there's a vaccine coming out.
Hear your soul.
It's going to take a long time. Well, it's not just the time it takes to get here, but I mean, there's 330 million people that need it. It ain't going to be a overnight.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's going to be a tough thing. But they're just going to, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to go full force ahead because it's probably the sport, like you said. Baseball is probably the easiest to get through because there's so little.
Except for all the spitting.
Yeah, exactly. No spitting. But you're right. I mean, I've never seen a group of people out to destroy an industry as this ownership group headed by Manfred.
Well, I mean, there's so much blame to go around. I mean, the fact that the Players Union has a guy at the head of it who's really not experienced enough to deal with the negotiations. And Scott Boras is wielding way too much power in all of this.
He's not.
They're heating agendas, and it's just not a good thing.
No. And I mean, but their problem, they agreed to something, and I take their side on this. You made the agreement.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're sticking to the agreement. You're the ownership group's trying to change the way the game's played. You're taking advanced stats out of control, and you've made the game boring. Okay. Home run or strikeout is not the way you go about things. Okay. Now you're bitch slapping these people. You're not trying to get a proper negotiation. And again, Tony, you're right. Tony Clark's not exactly coming back with a negotiation either.
No, and what's happening is you're seeing class warfare, basically. You have the really high-paid players, and you have the bottom-paid players, and there's a big gap there. So, the whole good of the game thing is just not. It's not on anybody's list right now.
And would a 48-game season be exciting? For us, it would be.
Yeah, we might actually be in it.
Exactly.
Don't fall apart until at least 60 games in.
Right. But overall, I don't want to see it. I mean, overall, I want the 162 games or 156 games or whatever you end up having. You're not going to have that this year.
No.
But, I want to see baseball. So I guess at this point, you do what you have to. I'm pretty much through waking up early to see the KBO. I don't even know if they're still playing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
boy, I've watched a lot of YouTube. I got to tell you that.
Oh yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, man. I've seen a lot of that myself, and it's been great. But I am looking forward to a little golf here.
Yeah, I watched the Tiger Phil match with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. It was fine, but I thought golf of all the sports is best equipped to deal with it.
And they're going to have fans next week. They're going to be the first in the world to have fans.
Oh boy, I tell you what, if it's humid out there, I don't want to be wearing a mask. That's not going to be comfortable.
Well, we're both retailers, so the stores aren't always at their optimum temperature, and I know I've been probably drinking a dozen things a day because that mask just dries you up.
It does.
And
What sport are you looking forward to seeing most of all?
Boy, I want to see college football more than anything. Um, I really, I said on Facebook this week, the two things I want to do when this all ends is go to Michigan, 100,000 seat stadium, jam with fans, and just get that feel once again. That just feeling you can only get from college football. The other thing, and we need to discuss this, I want to go play catch at Cooperstown
Let's go.
on Doubleday Field. I don't go hitting because Lord knows I don't know what will be pitching to me, and after not hitting for 20 years.
Well, as long as you said don't say let's have a catch, which to me is the only weak point in Field of Dreams. Who
Let's
says
have a
that?
catch. Nobody says that. Even my dad, when we would go to play catch, let's go play catch.
Yeah.
No, it is the weak point of the game.
For me, I'm actually really looking forward to hockey because of the tournament that they have set up. I think it's going to be exciting.
Well,
And I think where the Penguins are seated in all of this, they got a nice chance.
oh Jesus, they can't even get half the Canadians together.
Yeah.
They're having a real problem getting together. So and it gives you some hockey early. So these guys coming in the second round, they're going to have been sitting for
Right.
how long? It's what basketball should do. I don't understand why basketball, and that could be a stupid thing too for a sport that usually leads the way. You're not going to have 8 teams play. Got that. But then you're going to play 8 games before you just go to the playoffs. You've had enough time to do this, or have a play-in. If you want to give a couple guys a chance, have a 1-game play-in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, hockey's going to be kind of neat. I think the Penguins have a real decent chance at a Stanley Cup.
Gensel will be back.
Yeah, no, they'll be healthy. I mean, the guys who are out are, certainly not their top players. I certainly look forward to that. I don't care if I get to go to a game this year, but I miss it.
Yeah. I don't need to be at the game. I just want to watch them.
Yeah. I mean, I paid my Steeler tickets for the year, and I'll tell you what, it usually takes them a week or two to cash the check. Not even 24 hours.
That's fabulous.
So I'm glad I didn't float this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But I mean, it's. I didn't get the full effect of the quarantine because they called us back fairly quickly. But I know after a week and a half, I was going buggy with nothing to do, and YouTube was the savior.
Oh, and and I'm watching things that I normally wouldn't watch.
You tell me Golden Girls episodes.
No, I mean sports wise.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what did I watch? I mean, I was watching This Week in Football, This Week in Baseball.
Oh yeah.
From the 70s.
Yeah.
All those shows, I'd forgotten how much I really liked them.
Yeah.
I've watched the 71 All-Star game a couple of times. I've watched some some old Steeler games. And just looking at just the number one, the size of the players and how that's changed, the speed of the game, the graphics,
Lacko graphics.
Yeah. And the NFL Network and all of the major sports networks have done a good job of finding some good programming to put on there.
No, they've done good. And the sports talk show host, I mean, there's a twosome on our sports radio network here. They're like nails on a chalkboard to me, just because it's always, I'm superior to any GM, president, what have you. But other than that, I give them kudos. They've done great things with not a lot of not a lot of topics go around. Hell, I mean, I've made like 7 or 8 appearances myself, so you know damn well they didn't have anything to talk about at the time. So, um, but I mean, look, we're rounding the corner. I don't know that we're rounding the corner on the disease, but at least not seeing sports we're rounding the corner on. And I bought the Athlon college football. I know damn well half these teams may not play, but
Right.
you know what? It felt normal reading it, and you know, Lord knows with Pitt's defense, they got a chance to do some things this year if they play. My cousin's kid got recruited by Duquesne to play receiver, so
Oh, nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I have an old Dan McCann had tossed me a couple shirts when I was covering. A couple of the original varsity shirts from back in the early '80s. So that's going to be my graduation gift to him. He's going to get one of those shirts to celebrate. But, you know, we've had a lot of fun. We've made the best of it. I mean,
we've talked about what got us into sports. We've talked about games. We've talked about all kinds of things. But you know, maybe this isn't such a horrendous thing too. I mean, in terms of taking this break from sports and really getting an appreciation for it. I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, we were oversaturated.
Yeah. I mean, it's not when we were growing up. We had small numbers. We could memorize everything coming through. You had a sporting news that helped you. I mean, you don't have a lot of that here. And yeah, I know you can get on the internet.
That's not the same.
It's not the same thing. It's not
the thing of knowing, hey, next Tuesday, Street and Smith is coming out. I'm going to be down at that news.
Right. And I was so thrilled to see that. And you know, next thing will be the Big Ten issue that Lindy's put out that I'll get. You know, EJ Borghetti at Pitt always nicely sends me a football media guide.
EJ's a good dude.
He's a very good. He has been so helpful in our projects.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot.
Absolutely. But
and you know, I got to give kudos to Coach Burt too. I mean, he's not been silent during this whole thing.
Coach Burt has never once backed off a comment, backed off a thought process. I respect the hell out of him. And
he's a hell of a coach, and more importantly, I think he's a hell of a guy. I mean, I know people who work with him closely, and they have nothing but good things to say about him.
I mean, that's the reason he's still here. I mean, and I'm assuming, you know, with what he's done with this program, he probably could get a lot of offers, but he's here. We should be so excited to have him here. I mean, he's done things that aren't easy to do at our university, and no, he hasn't been silent on it. And I mean, you can see through those who are kind of giving it this is what the popular thing to say is now, and you know, those who really are taking a genuine interest. I think Coach Narduzzi, who's been criticized in the past for calling people thugs and what have you. I mean, you know, he basically has been calling his players, having the meetings, getting their input, and not publicizing it as many are.
Right.
You know? I mean, Dabo it seemed like, you know,
it's a case of listening.
Yeah. I mean, you listen to what Dabo's doing, and to me, that's disingenuous. I mean, it's, you know, your pencil whipping this. And I mean, you know, your quarterback that led you to a national championship is calling on you to rename some of the athletic buildings. I think they're athletic buildings that are named after a guy who was a slave owner. So if you really believe what you're saying,
you do it.
You put the pressure on that.
Yeah.
I have, and again, just my opinion, I have no problem pulling every damn Confederate statue, no matter where, and renaming whatever Again, you know, Rommel Stadium, you know, no different than calling these guys. They attacked the country. I mean,
and guess what, guys? Lost.
Yeah, you're
all the papers, to quote a great line from 8 men out.
I mean, yeah, you're sitting there and you're throwing out the pennant of the 1962 Mets. You know, you lost. You got your ass kicked after Gettysburg. You know, so. And I know this is historical, has nothing to do with sports, but I always wonder how people claim Lee is this genius general when he sends his people into a wide open field up against guys who are hunkered down with guns. What did you think was going to happen? Your main general told you, you know, what was going to happen. I mean, you know, that's neither here nor there, but why I always chuckle when somebody will mention it, how the brilliance of Robert E. Lee.
Well, you know, keep in mind, a lot of those statues happened 20 some years after the war with the Daughters of the Confederacy.
Oh, no doubt. I know why they're there.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just racism from
It is. And quite frankly, I, you know, while I have no problem pulling it down, there are a lot bigger fish to fry.
yeah. I mean, put them in a museum, let people have that discussion about it. But
Yeah, keep them in one little area.
you go like they did in England. They pull a slave trader's statue down, and it ends up in the bay. And even better now, if you look at Google Maps,
Uh-huh.
put that statue on there, it shows it in the water.
You know, well, my favorite thing is, you know, we'll forget history if we start pulling us down. It's,
Nah.
okay. Do we need to put, again, using Hitler, we need to put a statue every corner so we remember who Hitler was. We've been able to do that without a statue.
Yeah.
You know, and these guys were losers in the war. We'd be able to remember them too.
Yeah, here's something a little interesting though, Dave. This would be a case of my listening. When there was the demonstrations in Pittsburgh and the Lemieux statue was defaced, my initial thought was, wait a minute. Of all the people you're going to do this to, it's Mario Lemieux. And then I was talking to an African-American friend of mine and said, look, this organization where this thing is right now, the Hill District has been completely decimated when the Civic Arena was put in. The organization hasn't done what it could to help this community. It's fair game. And I thought about that and I went, all right, I can understand your opinion. I mean, my feeling was, this is a guy who is so revered. Why would you attack his statue? But, you know, I didn't have the bigger context.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to condone looting and rioting.
No, never.
Because that's not going to get you anywhere. But you do have to listen and you have to understand why people are mad.
Right.
And I don't think, and myself included, I mean, I've always thought myself to be fair-minded. But, you know, I just don't have the experiences that these guys have.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to listen and truly understand what they're going through. I mean, I've read so much in the past couple of weeks about, you know, affluent African Americans having to go through this. It's not just what you think.
No, it's not.
It's the same story you're hearing time and time again. And when you hear that, you can start understanding why they're afraid. And you know,
frustrated, angry, all of those things. I mean, I have a friend who's a business owner who would occasionally call me up and say, hey, I need a white guy in the room with me for this meeting. Are you available? I'm like, sure, but I mean, I don't know what I'm going to add to it. He said, just be there. Be there and support. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And that's a shame that has to happen. But, you know, as I said, I've done a lot of good things as far as the projects I've done, but none has touched me any more than the Chuck Cooper. And just, you know, going full bore with the in-depth interviews and I've never done a biography, so
Well, and I mean, we talked about this too. I mean, the night of that induction, when you saw the people who got up on that stage in support of him, it was mind-boggling.
It was. And just to know, and you have to read through the lines to understand truly what's going on at the time. But just to see what that man went through and just would not back down. I mean, I've
Yeah.
never had more respect for a subject in my life than I did, and I now consider it the great tragedy of my life that I never had a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, no.
Um,
And I've enjoyed getting to know Chuck, his son a little bit through
Chuck,
all of it too. And,
Chuck,
great guy.
Chuck's taken it to the next level, and I mean we know about his work with the Chuck Cooper Foundation. He does wonderful stuff there, but the stuff he did before, it was hardcore stuff. It was stuff where his life was on the line to try to get
Oh, yeah,
kids.
he was talking up to, he was going, challenging drug dealers.
Yeah.
Who does that?
You know, his father would be proud. I mean, that's one thing I told him afterwards when we were done with it. I said, you know what, your dad would be proud of you.
Well, and I think the two of us are better people for having known him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's just cutting the surface. That's just scratching the surface, and so hopefully this continues to go where it's at, because things need to finally change. I mean, the conversations I've had in the past where you just kind of chuckle and walk on when somebody makes a derogatory comment just because you don't want to offend them. Well,
Yeah.
somebody has made the comments, I've offended them. Because you know what, I never found them funny, but right now you're out of line. And you're out of line going forward. Because it's those thoughts that why we have issues like that. It's not just bad cops.
No. But, the other part of it too is that, first of all, we're hearing all this defund the police and, get an idea of what that really means. I mean,
Yeah.
First of all, we're asking police to do more than we've ever should be asking them to do.
Right.
And putting resources on prevention as opposed to reacting makes a lot of sense.
Right. And
But don't play this bullshit of, oh, you're going to call and there's going to be nobody there to answer the call.
because that's what, again, we go back to the far end parties that are making this more difficult because we're jumping on sides when we shouldn't, because these guys are basically doing this for their own profits.
Right.
But that's one of the things they want you to believe, that because that's going to put more money in their pockets. If you believe that that's what this means, it doesn't mean that at all. It's basically just changing the philosophy, having them do less, changing the philosophy of how you're training them.
Well, and also
the thought process.
Some of these small towns in Western Pennsylvania, police officer is basically a minimum wage job for a lot of them.
It is. And
training, it's
state police run a lot of these things too. There are a lot of places in Westmoreland County where the state police are the police officers. And that's the one thing we do have to remember is a lot of these guys are good civil servants. But you got to change the culture to get rid of those who aren't. And that's going to be the difficult part. That's going to be the part where you're really going to have to get the union to understand keeping bad cops on is not good for business.
Right.
It'll
be nice when things get back to normal and we can actually talk about sports.
Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that next week. We're going to have a quick round of, lightning round, this or that. And one of my things on here that we're going to talk about, Floyd or Howard Sprague.
Oh.
Yeah, I want you to think about that. We're going to hope that Gary can figure this out so he can get on and we could be dazzled by his knowledge.
Well, I will say this, just as a preview, it's all about the witch hazel.
Okay. It certainly could be. It certainly could be, my friend. But we're going to get back to that. We're going to have some fun with this. So, yeah. I was going to do that today, but the NASCAR thing just,
Yeah, we needed to do this.
yeah, and it just pissed me off coming out. It
Yeah.
pissed, these guys deserve no
No.
pat on the back, and that's pissing me off that's what they're getting. They don't deserve it.
Nope.
Okay, you feed into that. You feed into that because you're going to make more money off it. That is about as wrong as you can ever get. And I don't even, people have thought, oh, they're just playing to their crowd. Well, don't play to your crowd then. Your crowd's an asshole if that's what you're trying to play to. I mean,
But good, kudos to Bubba for sitting up and saying this is wrong. This needs to change.
absolutely. From his part, yeah. I mean, and that's got to be tough when you're one and done, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to be tough, and I like what I'm hearing from Goodell. Whether it's disingenuous or not, I don't care. It's going to help change, and they need to stick with it. And it's not just about the Rooney Rule. It's not just about that. And if you ever get the chance on Netflix to watch a documentary called 13th.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Do so. It explains the whole part. 25% of anybody who's been indicted in the world is in the United States, which is mind-boggling. 3% of the population. Yeah. And how it came about and how it's gone down, it makes sense. A lot of this that we've heard for years and just didn't have the concept on why this was happening, it starts making sense. And so the NFL can impact that because, like it or not, this country is fixated when it comes to anything. More people are fixated on the NFL than art, than what happened. And if Goodell's going to get in there, and he sounded like it was a very heartfelt message. I give him credit. I don't know if he was full of shit or not, but it doesn't matter. It sounded heartfelt. And, he's got to follow through with backing the players. I mean, it can't just be about kneeling at the anthem because that is, for me, that's a hollow effort if it's not backed up by something further. They have to back this up by something further. And this has to be about getting better candidates out there who are into your cause. It's about to figure out a way. Yeah, you look at Georgia and you know that there's some nasty things being done down there to suppress minority voters. Fine. You know what's going on. Figure it out. That's what we need here. We don't need liberal answers. We don't need conservative answers. We need to look down and find common sense answers. You don't need to just march without, it's fine to protest. What do you want out of this? You want?
Well, Dave, I would say to you right now, the protests have been pretty effective. You look at where the discussions have moved and changes that they're talking about making.
And that's what they need to push. I'm not saying don't protest.
No. I'm just saying, for people who say, what are they trying to accomplish? What's the goal here? I think it's pretty evident, and I think that people are speaking up. Maybe, Dave, a year from now, we're not talking about race, and we're not talking about race in sports. Maybe we're talking about change. I don't know.
Well, I really genuinely, I've followed this all my life. One of the first things, it wasn't a racial thing, but the first thing that really truly affected me, I was 9 at the time, was Kent State. Right. And I was like obsessed with finding out more about it at the time. And there's just a lot of things screwed up. And it's fine to protest, but you got to protest with an objective.
Right.
You got to protest, and part of that protest has to be to get better candidates. You've got to get better candidates. You've got to get out to vote. You've got to figure out those plans. Just don't bitch that they're making it hard for you. They're going to make it hard for you. If you're protesting because you want people to be nicer and change their attitudes, that's not going to happen. I mean, a lot will. A lot will focus on it, like you and I are talking. But you're still going to have a lot of people out there, because a lot of the conversations I'm reading are the same damn conversations we've heard all this time and not understanding what's going on. That's still going to be there. You're going to have people in Georgia who are going to try to suppress your votes, because they know if they suppress your votes, they have the power.
Right.
You have to figure out how to get around that. Okay? They're not going to make it easy for you. Get buses together. Pick up these people. Take them to the polling places. Feed them. Explain to them you may have to wait in line for an hour or two, but it's going to be better for you in the long run.
Right.
I was not obviously enamored. I wasn't enamored with either choice last time. Or I'm not saying I'm enamored with either choice this time, but shame on us for allowing that to happen. Instead of going out and getting people who are really keyed up to truly change things for all people, to truly change things, that race is no longer a problem. 165 fucking years of this, 250 years or whatever.
Right.
This is ridiculous. I'm sick of talking about it because it's stupid we have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it was these people that had anything unfair, the first ones jumping up and down bitching.
Right. And the other thing, we have to get past the, this candidate, I don't like this candidate, everything that this candidate stands for, therefore I'm not going to vote. Therefore, I'm not going to support this candidate because I don't 100% agree. Hey, guess what? It's not going to happen. So just
get the candidate who most closely resembles what you need.
Right.
But on the other end, push for candidates that truly want to govern and not collect money from lobbyist groups. I'm not saying one way or another, but I'm sick of, we'll leave it at that. Just say I'm a certain subject that keeps getting brought up as a main subject that has nothing to do with 99% of people's lives.
Right.
Because both sides are getting buku money from the opposition. And guess what? Nothing's ever happened with this in 50 years. So, let's get on to things that are going to make effective change.
Like a Penguin Stanley Cup run, Dave.
I stand corrected. That would be the one thing that would make me the happiest. But we can't. Can we go down and celebrate?
Oh. 6 feet away. 6 feet away.
You know what? I'm all for this, protecting people, but I'm going downtown if they win.
Well, just don't burn anything. That's all I ask.
I'm gonna keep the flames away. But talking about that, who would have thought the Penguins would have been the ones who basically called out what was causing the violence downtown.
Yeah.
Nobody else in any other city was seeing it. David Morehouse.
How about David Morehouse going out there?
God bless him, man. That's badass stuff.
That is some serious badassery right there.
That is huge badassery. But Penguins were the ones that said, "Hey, look, not them. Look who is doing this."
Right.
They didn't have to do this.
They did not.
And I agree with what your friend said. In doing our research for our book, they cut out a huge part of the hill.
Yeah.
So I mean, not
the Penguins doing that. Kevin Acklin worked in Peduto's office. So I mean, Kevin Acklin, he knows what's going on. And he's not afraid to say what needs to be said.
Good guy. Real good guy. But, it is a franchise that does a lot for the city. But, and I believe they're going to start thinking along lines of how they can do more to bridge the gap of rates. Like, some of these
Opportunity.
are going to do, but again, if they do it out of pressure and they don't really believe it, I don't give a shit. As long as they're doing it,
Right.
as long as people are getting opportunities.
Right.
As I said, the one thing that heartens me about all this is it just feels different, and I mean that in a good
Well, I think it's also the younger people who are going to drive this.
Well, and maybe there's hope that finally a generation gets it. I've been hoping. I knew ours didn't. I didn't know that. I grew up in Greensburg, which was 99.9% white, Catholic, and Italian. So I didn't get it till after I went to Duquesne, and I felt bad about it. And I was glad I got that experience there. But I've been hoping ever since that a generation would figure it out and start to turn the tide a little. And that ain't happened yet. So maybe this is the generation that does it.
Well, I remain hopeful.
So to me, that's the main thing that comes out of this. It's different. It's different from a good way. It hasn't fizzled out after 5 days.
As we have two white guys here pontificating on race, that's beautiful too.
It is because I don't know, like maybe 5-10 years ago, I'd be bitching about the looting and not understanding and using, 99% of all people are good. But that doesn't matter, that 99% of all people are good. This is still happening.
I was in LA for the riots. And I was doing a story. I was working for a construction magazine at the time, and I went down into that area, and it was eye-opening for me. I mean, talking to a business owner who said that the only reason that they took his store is because his gun jammed. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's I mean, and you feel for the business owners, of course.
Because, I do. But, you don't shoot into a crowd.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that guy. I mean, just in general.
I know, but I mean, it's just like there are other things where this, the whole pandemic thing has been, it's been very challenging for small businesses.
Yeah.
For the banks have made a little bit of money out of all of this, but
grocery stores have done well.
Yeah.
Let
me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'm puzzled by this, that there's been a shortage now of hand soap, the pump hand soap.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that only hitting now? Shouldn't that have been hitting from the very beginning along with the toilet paper shortage?
Well, that's been the thing that has, I'm not going to lie to you. Anytime I've seen a roll of Charmin Soft, I bought it. So yeah, I have an arsenal downstairs. So
it's a bomb shelter of a different kind.
It's a bomb exactly. But that's the thing that has just blown my mind, is why things have all of a sudden, you get runs on it. Thank God I look like I'm 60, so I can go at 7 a.m. to Giant Eagle and grab what I need before it's out by the end of the day.
And dried white beans. Why?
I don't know.
Well, yeast I can understand, because people are making their own bread.
Took me two months to find yeast because Viv wanted to make cinnamon rolls. Took me 2 months. I've ordered a few things. I'm not too proud to admit I've ordered a few things on eBay, probably for 2 or 3 times the cost. Just because you needed this, you wanted the stuff, and damn it, this is the only way you're going to get. But again, I'm not forgiving the stupidity of the people for figuring. I don't understand why, when they said all along grocery stores were going to be open, but the news media had a lot to do with that. You need to stock up for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, that's not what you tell people, because this is what happens when you tell people that.
I actually lost 5 pounds during all this.
Did you?
Yeah, go figure.
There you go. Pandemics, best weight loss.
Yeah, down to I'm now just fat. I'm down to 185.
See?
I've left the world of obesity behind.
Yeah. And now you're fat. I got my Yager look going on here. Just 2 more days. 2 more days it goes. But, you know, I, it's been a weird couple months.
I'm missing seeing what Gary's hair looks like.
Well, we're going to see that next week. Well, we're going to suggest that Gary go in first before I get there. Apparently, that's the trick.
I think maybe that's it.
So we'll get him in here at 5 till. But anyways, my friend, I've enjoyed this conversation.
I have as well. Now that we've solved all the world's problems and we've both predicted a deep run for the Penguins.
Well, next week we're going to go quick, man. There you go. You have a good evening, my friend.
Amen. Take care.